So the first one I'd say is, at the moment, it's fantastic seeing in Formula One with Albon and Russell, Hamilton doing so well. So it's fantastic seeing these British drivers come through. So internationally, coming from the British motorsport, we're doing pretty well.
We're doing really well, and first of all, thank you for inviting me here today. I just want to say what a fantastic event this is, and a great innovation. I think that the whole point about motor racing is actually getting out there and trying the cars, and it's always rather frustrating when you go to Motorsport or any of the other shows and you see all these wonderful machines and you can't drive them. So congratulations and well done on that.
Thank you.
But back to your question. You know, the UK has got an extraordinary track record in producing professional drivers, elite drivers, and none more so than in Formula One. I was looking at the stats the other day, and you may not be aware, but we produce more Formula One world champions than any other country in the world. In fact, not just more, but twice the number of the next best country, which is France. So we're obviously doing something right. There's something in the water here. The fact we got 3 drivers, and I do include Alex Albon in our roster of UK drivers, and the 3 youngsters, if you want to call them that, Lando, George and Alex, are extraordinarily talented, and they've come right through the UK system, starting in karting, have excelled at every level. Motorsport UK, or as the MSA as it was, has taken them through the Motorsport Academy, and we're very proud of that process.
Fantastic. So, as I said earlier, you pretty much started 12 months ago. So what kind of changes have you seen and implemented since you started?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that, you know, motorsport in this country is very successful. As I go around the world and meet with other national governing bodies for motorsport, they look on with some envy as the strength of the motorsport industry here. But at the same time, I think you've got to realize that motorsport has got some significant headwinds against it. If you think about the environmental lobby, which so far has not particularly rallied against us, but clearly presents some challenges. I think there's always the considerations about cost in motorsport, and also the very changing nature of the automobile in society. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up as a kid, motorsport was on the television the whole time. We'd take our mini A-series engines to pieces on the kitchen table. You know, you're not going to do that now. My kids are probably not going to own a car. They'll probably lease it or pick one up as a zip car in a bay somewhere. So we've got to, as Motorsport UK, be thinking about the long-term future of motorsport, and we've begun to do that in a number of different ways in which we're beginning to promote the sport more. And the simple fact of the matter is that we can no longer just be the regulator of sport. We can't just be the governing body that looks after the rules and regulations and the blue book that you all love. We've got to be the promoter of motorsport, and so events like this are absolutely in line with what we need to be doing as a sport, which is shouting about how great it is, make sure people can see how accessible it is, and how affordable it is.
Absolutely. Well, one of the championships launched this year was the Ferrari Challenge, and their pretty much statement has said is because the UK has got so many drivers out there that have their race license, that it seemed such an obvious market for them to kind of home in on more than what they've done across Europe. So it's fantastic to see that.
Yeah, I mean, you may not even be aware, but we have 30,000 competition license holders in the UK, 30,000. Around about a third of those are circuit racers, about 11,000 people who've got license for driving on circuits. So we've got about 20,000. And if you're in the circuit racing community, you may not be so familiar with auto tests and auto solos and hill climbs and trials and cross country and drag racing. There's such an incredibly diverse sport, and I think that's one of the attractions of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, with us launching this event, you know, it's fantastic to have you on board and exhibiting as well. How important do you think it is a trade show like this allows people to make it a slightly more accessible for people to test drive cars and get on track?
Well, I think that's the thing, is that whether you start in karting or you start in something like auto tests, we've got to make it accessible. And I still think that you started with your first question about Formula One, and for the general public, when they think about motorsport, they think about Formula One, and they imagine that it's impossible that you could ever get into motorsport. It's got to be something for somebody who's extremely wealthy or has got the right connections at least. And I think, as we all know, the vast majority of people, we do our research, and actually around about 65% of people who compete in this country spend less than £5,000 a year on their competition. So it's still expensive. It's not like getting a pair of running shoes and going off running around the park. It does cost money, but it's not extreme. And I think shows like this open it up to the general public and show that there are so many different championships, different forms of motorsport which are accessible and affordable.
Yep, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. Well, I saw in the news earlier this week, you've just announced with Bicester Heritage, so you're actually going to change premises and move on, as it were. So what excitement does that lead?
Yeah, as I say, you know, we've got to change from just being a regulatory body, being the governing body of motorsport, keeping it safe and fair. And our move to Bicester, which will take place next summer, is really a symbol of the ambition of the organisation. We've been based down in Colnbrook for 30 years, in frankly a rather dull building on a rather dull industrial estate. And it really hasn't got much to do with motorsport. It's not very accessible. Moving to Bicester is very much symbolic of us wanting to be in the heartland of motorsport in this country. And the backdrop at Bicester, for those who haven't been there, it's 400 acres just down the road from here, with a management team there who've got this extraordinary vision to turn it into an experiential environment for automobile enthusiasts. If you haven't been to one of their Bicester Scrambles or the Flywheels, I do encourage you to go down there, because they're wonderful sort of celebrations of the automobile in all its different forms and facets. We'll be based there from next summer, and it's designed to be a very inclusive place. They're building a large hotel, rather like the one over the other side of the pit straight here. 300-bedroom hotel, conference centre. Driven, which is one of the premier circuit designers in the world, is designing a circuit to be at Bicester. There are advanced discussions with automotive manufacturers about creating experiential zones. Lots of exciting things happening there. And as a governing body, we can then open our doors to get our clubs. We've got 720 clubs who are members of Motorsport UK. Get them to have a summer festival of motorsport, putting on events, inviting people there. We can have training there. We can have rescue and recovery teams there, technical innovation centres. So it's really a whole new world. So Bicester represents a new vision for the sport.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds pretty exciting. Well, look, thank you very much for coming down today and being part of the conference and also part of the exhibition as well. Unfortunately, we have to wrap things up there, but I've just got one last question. Are you going to head out on track later today?
I certainly hope so. The last time I was driving in weather like this, it was in a WEC Aston Martin Vantage, which was a slightly nerve-wracking affair, not wanting to wrap it around the Armco.
No, definitely not. Well, look, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And yeah, enjoy the rest of the show.
And good luck with the show.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.